I'm standing here in this exquisite chapel of St. George at Windsor Castle, so close to where my beloved mother, the late Queen...
A single white envelope slid through the back gates of Clarence House on a rain-soaked evening that would forever alter the British monarchy. No royal crest, no golden seal, just plain, unremarkable paper carrying the most devastating secret the crown has ever faced. Inside, a letter so explosive it could topple everything Camilla Parker Bowles has clawed her way toward for decades. The handwriting is controlled, precise, almost clinical in its politeness. But the words? They're pure dynamite wrapped in DNA evidence. I believe I am the biological child of King Charles III. Scientific proof enclosed. Can you imagine the silence that must have followed? The kind of dead, suffocating quiet that screams louder than any explosion? Because this wasn't some tabloid fantasy or cash grab publicity stunt from a delusional pretender seeking 15 minutes of fame. This was science. Cold, hard, undeniable genetic truth from a certified European laboratory that specializes in handling the most sensitive, high-profile paternity cases on the planet. The results? A staggering 99.9% DNA match. Not to Prince William, not to Prince Harry, but to King Charles himself. And just like that, Queen Camilla's worst nightmare had finally materialized in flesh, blood, and irrefutable scientific evidence. The forbidden romance before Diana. But here's where the story gets absolutely mind-blowing. To understand how we got to this earth-shattering moment, we need to rewind the clock to 1977. 6 years before Charles would kneel before the world and slip that sapphire ring onto Diana Spencer's trembling finger. Back then, Charles wasn't chasing after the shy kindergarten teacher who would become the people's princess. No, he was completely captivated by someone else entirely. Diana's older sister, Lady Sarah Spencer. Picture Sarah Spencer, striking, aristocratic, with that unmistakable Spencer bone structure and a razor-sharp intelligence that could slice through royal protocol like a hot knife through butter. She was everything the palace wanted in a future queen: noble bloodline, impeccable breeding, and the kind of magnetic presence that commanded attention at every diplomatic dinner and gallery exhibition she graced. Charles was absolutely smitten. Friends describe him as completely bewitched by Sarah's unusual combination of elegant poise and fierce independence. While other potential brides cowered under the weight of royal expectations, Sarah Spencer moved through Charles's world like she owned it. Their romance blazed hot and heavy for over a year. Secret weekends at Balmoral. Passionate late-night phone calls channeled through trusted palace aides. There were even whispered reports of a romantic getaway to Italy in 1979, cleverly disguised as a diplomatic mission. But then Sarah made one catastrophic mistake that would echo through royal history forever. In early 1978, she sat down for lunch with two journalist friends and dropped the royal bombshell that ended everything. "I wouldn't marry Charles if he were the dustman or the King of England." When Charles read those words splashed across the Sunday papers, his reaction was swift and brutal. "You've just done something extremely stupid," he reportedly told her, and just like that, their fairy tale romance was over. Sarah vanished from the royal radar almost overnight. No scandal, no public meltdown. She simply melted back into private life, eventually marrying a French diplomat and relocating to Switzerland. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Sebastian David Keppel, the hidden prince. 9 months after Sarah Spencer's final documented meeting with Prince Charles, a baby boy was born in the pristine maternity ward of a Geneva hospital. His name, Sebastian David Keppel. His mother, the formerly royal adjacent Lady Sarah. His father on the birth certificate, completely blank. From the very beginning, Sebastian's life read like a carefully orchestrated mystery novel. Every detail screamed of hidden royal connections, yet nothing could be definitively proven. Think about this. A family trust of unknown origin funded every aspect of his childhood education, starting at an exclusive Montessori institute that charged fees most aristocrats couldn't afford. His teachers described him as unnaturally polished, well-spoken, and possessing an eerie maturity that seemed bred for public life. Yet he lived completely outside the public eye. But the most shocking detail? His face. Sharp cheekbones that mirrored Charles's early photographs. deep-set eyes that held the same contemplative intensity. A profile so startlingly royal that one teacher reportedly gasped, "If I didn't know better, I'd say you're straight out of Sandringham." Sebastian simply smiled and said nothing. In his early 20s, he quietly enrolled at King's College London to study international law. Not to party, not to seek celebrity, but to master the intricate legal frameworks that govern, well, monarchies. Everything was paid for through that same mysterious trust: tuition, rent, even custom tailoring that would make Seville row proud. And here's where it gets absolutely chilling. Recently leaked financial documents revealed that Sebastian's shadow sponsor was a shell trust directly affiliated with the same private law firm that manages Charles's Duchy of Cornwall estate. Coincidence? In the royal world, there are no coincidences. The real-world DNA revolution. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like something straight out of a Netflix drama. But here's the terrifying truth. This isn't fiction. The British royal family is currently being bombarded by multiple real-world DNA claimants, each armed with increasingly sophisticated genetic evidence. Meet Simon Durrani Day, a 58-year-old Australian engineer who has spent over 2 decades claiming to be the secret love child of Charles and Camilla. His story? Absolutely chilling in its consistency and detail. Simon claims his adoptive grandmother, who worked for the royal household, told him repeatedly that Charles and Camilla gave him up after his birth in 1966. He believes Camilla became pregnant when she was just 18 years old, then mysteriously disappeared for 9 months, the exact same time Charles was conveniently sent to Australia. But Simon isn't the only one circling the palace with DNA demands. There's also Janet Jenkins, now 70 and living in Toronto, who has steadfastly refused to confirm or deny that Prince Charles fathered her son Jason after meeting him at the British consulate in Montreal in 1975. Their affair reportedly continued during the 1976 Olympics, with secret assignations at both Sandringham and Balmoral that infuriated the Queen when she discovered Janet was staying there. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Mysterious pregnancies, unexplained disappearances, children with striking royal resemblances, and decades of palace silence that screams guilt louder than any confession. Camilla's nuclear meltdown. When Sebastian's DNA results finally landed on the mahogany desk at Clarence House, the atmosphere inside the palace walls transformed from regal tranquility to absolute chaos in a matter of hours. Picture Queen Camilla, the woman who clawed her way from royal mistress to queen consort through decades of public humiliation and media torture, suddenly faced with scientific proof that her husband had fathered another child before he'd even met Diana. The initial signs were subtle. A canceled charity meeting here, a rescheduled dinner there. But then came the explosion that palace staff will never forget. According to multiple royal sources, Camilla screamed for approximately 20 minutes after receiving the DNA documents. She locked herself in her private quarters, hurling crystal glassware at the walls with such violent fury that a longtime maid was seen fleeing the apartment in tears. One shaken insider described the scene. She was completely unhinged. I'd never heard such rage from a human being. But this wasn't just about Charles's betrayal. This was about timing, about legitimacy, about everything Camilla had sacrificed to reach this moment. She'd already endured being branded a homewrecker for destroying Charles and Diana's marriage. She'd survived decades of public hatred, booze-soaked tabloid headlines, and protesters calling her names that would make sailors blush. And now, just as she was finally settling into her role as queen, the past had returned, not as whispered rumors, but as a living, breathing man with royal DNA and potential to shatter her legacy with a single television interview. In a leaked audio message to a confidant, Camilla reportedly raged, "They will paint him as a rightful heir. They will make me look like a fraud again. After all I've given up, after everything I've sacrificed." The woman who had survived Diana's shadow was now being haunted by an even more dangerous ghost. The ghost of Charles's hidden bloodline, William and Kate's chess master strategy. While Clarence House descended into chaos and Camilla's rage echoed to the corridors, Prince William and Princess Catherine remained unnaturally calm. Not the kind of calm that comes from ignorance, but the calculated composure of chess masters who've been planning for this exact scenario for years. Privately, William was reportedly shaken, but not surprised. Rumors about a half-brother had been circulating in royal circles for decades. As a child, he caught whispered conversations between palace officials, overheard tutors making cryptic comments, and seen the way certain tabloid stories made his father's face go ashen. But William understood something that Camilla, in her fury, seemed to have forgotten. This scandal wasn't just about Charles or even about the monarchy's past. This was about public trust, about succession optics, about the royal family's already precarious position in a modern world that no longer tolerates dynastic dishonesty. According to insiders, William told his closest advisors, "We do not interfere, we do not smear. We wait and we prepare." His strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. While Camilla raged and Charles retreated into haunted silence, William and Kate would rise above the storm. They would continue their public appearances with unwavering poise, supporting charities, visiting dignitaries, and presenting the image of royal continuity that the monarchy desperately needed. But behind the scenes, Kate was already 3 steps ahead. Sources reveal that she immediately deployed internal media specialists to monitor the narrative across every platform imaginable. Her team compiled every headline, tweet, and video about Sebastian's emergence, not to silence the story, but understand it, to anticipate where it would go next. And what they discovered was perhaps the most dangerous revelation of all. The public wasn't sympathizing with Camilla or Charles. They were sympathizing with Sebastian, a calm, articulate man who wanted nothing more than acknowledgement. William and Kate had learned from history. They knew how the palace had catastrophically mishandled Diana's story. They understood the crushing dangers of remaining silent while public opinion shifted like quicksand beneath their feet. Their message was clear. The monarchy would survive this storm, but it would require surgical precision, perfect timing, and the kind of strategic patience that separates true leaders from mere figureheads. The unraveling of royal secrecy. For centuries, the British monarchy has functioned like a perfectly maintained Swiss watch. Every secret carefully contained, every scandal meticulously managed, every potential threat neutralized before it could reach the public eye. But DNA science has changed everything. You can't spin genetic evidence. You can't bury scientific facts. You can't threaten or charm or negotiate with a laboratory report that reads 99.9% biological match. Sebastian David Keel, whether real or representative of the growing number of DNA claimants circling the palace, represents something far more dangerous than any traditional royal scandal. He represents the end of the monarchy's ability to control its own narrative. Think about the implications. Real claimants like Simon Durrani Day are already demanding Netflix documentaries to tell their stories, threatening legal action if Charles continues to refuse DNA testing, and using social media to build public support for their claims. Some are even connecting with each other, sharing stories of mysterious interference in their lives and the shocking lengths people have gone to stop them from discovering the truth. The royal family's centuries-old strategy of silence, deflection, and patient waiting for scandals to fade is crumbling in real time. Because genetic truth doesn't fade. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't move on to the next news cycle. It just sits there, waiting, demanding acknowledgement. But the damage was already done. The story had leaked to European outlets before exploding across international headlines. Royal DNA bombshell. Charles' father's secret son. Lab confirms crown contaminated. Camilla's worst nightmare. Secret heir confirmed. And with each headline, each news report, each social media post, the monarchy's carefully constructed fairy tale cracked a little bit more. Because this isn't really about one secret son or one hidden affair. This is about a system built on a fundamental lie that royal blood is somehow different, somehow pure, somehow deserving of worship and wealth and constitutional power. Sebastian exists. He is real. He is royal. And while he may never wear a crown, his mere presence is enough to remove it from those who do. The new age of royal accountability. Welcome to the era where royal secrets can't stay buried forever. Where DNA testing has democratized the ability to challenge power. Where ordinary people armed with scientific evidence can walk up to palace gates and demand recognition. This isn't just happening in Britain. Royal families across Europe are facing similar DNA challenges. Belgium's King Albert II was forced to submit to paternity testing. Prince Albert of Monaco has acknowledged multiple illegitimate children. Spain's former king Juan Carlos reportedly fathered 14 to 17 children outside his marriage. The age of royal immunity is ending, and it's ending with the precision of genetic science. But here's what makes the British situation uniquely explosive. The timing. Charles has just ascended to the throne. Camilla is still fighting for public acceptance. William and Kate are trying to modernize the monarchy for a new generation. And into this delicate moment of transition comes scientific proof that the very foundations of royal legitimacy are built on lies, secrets, and decades of systematic deception. The monarchy has always positioned itself as representing divine continuity, unbroken bloodlines, and moral authority. But what happens when that authority is challenged not by political revolution or public protest, but by the cold, clinical truth of genetic testing? What happens when the very science the royal family has used to authenticate historical artifacts and verify royal ancestry is turned against them by the children they tried to hide? The endgame, truth versus crown. As we stand at this crossroads of royal history, one thing becomes crystal clear. The old rules no longer apply. The monarchy can no longer rely on silence to make problems disappear. They can no longer trust that secrets will stay buried. They can no longer assume that bloodline legitimacy is theirs to define and control. Sebastian David Keppel, whether he exists as described or represents a collective threat of DNA claimants worldwide, has accomplished something no political movement, no media expose, no public scandal has ever achieved. He's forced the monarchy to confront the possibility that their greatest enemy isn't Republican sentiment or public indifference. It's truth itself. The DNA results are out there. The evidence is circulating. The world is watching. And no amount of palace protocol, no centuries of royal tradition, no carefully crafted public relations strategy can change the fundamental reality of genetic science. Camilla's rage may have dominated the headlines. Charles's haunted silence may have captured public imagination. William and Kate's strategic patience may preserve the monarchy's future. But the real winner in this royal DNA revolution isn't any member of the current royal family. It's the truth. Raw, undeniable, scientifically verified truth that refuses to bow to crowns, courtesy titles, or constitutional conventions. And that truth has a name, a face, and a genetic profile that matches the King of England with 99.9% certainty. The crown's deepest secret isn't secret anymore. It's exposed. It's undeniable. And it's absolutely, utterly royal. So, where does this leave the monarchy? With the public increasingly drawn to Sebastian's quiet strength and undeniable DNA, the palace is facing one of the greatest legitimacy crises in modern royal history. Will King Charles finally acknowledge the son he's never spoken of? Will Camilla's crown survive the fallout? And how will Prince William and Princess Kate navigate a future where the line of succession might not be as secure as it once seemed? One thing certain, the envelope has been opened and the truth can't be sealed back up. The royal family stands at a crossroads between legacy and accountability, between tradition and truth. And in the end, the world will be watching to see who steps forward and who hides behind palace walls. Let us know what you think. Should Sebastian be officially recognized? Is this the beginning of the end for Camilla's reign? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal revelations, because this story is far from over.